Caroline, welcome to the Retail Horror Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I am truly excited. Like I said to you off camera, I forget who sent me your Instagram, and I am fascinated, one, because you have multiple things that you do, but I think I started following you right before you opened your store, and watching you on the day-to-day breakdown of what you were going through and things that, like, fixtures and whatnot you were trying to source in New York. It was stressing me out. So it's so amazing to see it now up and running and whatnot. But before we get too into it, give everyone an introduction to yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so my name's Caroline Weaver, and I have been a shop owner for the better part of the past 10 years. When I was in my early 20s, I opened a stationery specialty shop here in New York City on the Lower East Side called CW Pencils. We specialized in wood-cased pencils from all over the world, hundreds of types of pencils. And it was a true specialty store. And for a lot of different reasons, I closed that store after 7 years in 2021. Partially pandemic related, but to do with a lot of things. And I learned so many lessons in running that store and doing it so naively at such a young age and having to just ride the wave and through the whole process of closing it. And I'd had this idea for a while that was based on my frustrations as a shop owner when it comes to the consumer's understanding of what a small business is and how it functions in a community and what makes it different to a big store or to Amazon. And so I'd had this idea for a while to make a directory about shopping here in New York City, because we have thousands of independent retailers here, and that's a huge city. And I think especially post-pandemic, people had kind of fallen out of the habit of going out and doing their shopping in person and engaging with their communities because it had become so easy and so native to us to do it all online. And so I thought, well, because the stuff is getting harder to find, because it gets harder and harder to Google these things, I thought I would make a directory, kind of like Yellow Pages, but designed for the modern age, online, searchable by category, subcategory, neighborhood. And so I set out to walk the entirety of New York City to catalog all of the shops in New York City. And I'm still walking. It's been 3 years. I've done about 80% of the city. We have 14,000 shops in our database that are all independently owned retailers in New York City. And it's continuously maintained. It's about as accurate as it can be. It's impossible, of course, for it to be totally accurate all the time. But, yeah, that kind of spawned this shop, which you mentioned, and I opened it last June. It's a general store called the Locavore Variety Store that specializes in products made within 100 miles of New York City. And it kind of exists to be like a manifestation in physical form of the lifestyle that I'm trying to sell through my advocacy work, through the directory, through all the things that I do to educate people about why independent retail shops are so important.
So the guide, I guess I have it confused. I thought the guide had come out after your retail space, or is the guide has been going online forever? Now it's an actual physical book.
Yeah, the online directory, our website, thelocavore.com, launched officially in July of 2023.
Okay. And
then I opened the shop. And then last November, I published the physical guidebook version of our website. Our website is unbiased. There are, like, any shop that primarily sells tangible dry goods, that is a retail shop that is independently owned and small, and New York City is included. But the guidebook is more or less a biased version of that. It includes 670 shops that I've picked from our database, and written longer form descriptions, and put in a guidebook that's kind of like, I don't know, I like to liken it to the Zagat guide, if anybody remembers those. Mm-hmm. And there's some hints of Farmer's Almanac too. And we are going to be updating it annually because this information changes so rapidly.
There's so much to unpack from what you just said. First, I want to go to your store, CW Pencil Enterprise. Okay, how big was the square footage of the store?
Well, we did eventually move to a bigger storefront, but the original location, which I signed that lease in 2014, it was like the size of a closet. It was about 200 square feet, maybe even a little bit less. And I paid $1,900 a month, which in New York City terms, even in 2014, was cheap.
Wow. I know retail. I mean, I can't even imagine retail space, real estate cost, let alone, because I know rents are insane there. I mean, I just talked to you about why I got out of California, because the cost of living, but it's nothing compared to New York. So in 200 square feet, were you only is it only pencils you're selling, or did you sell also paper and pads and?
Originally, we really mostly sold pencils and erasers and sharpeners and a very, very small selection of paper goods and vintage pencils. We had vintage pencils that were historically important or important from a design perspective in like a really pretty little glass case. We had a pencil vending machine. It was truly all about pencils.
I mean, I'm a weirdo. I love pencils. I love handwritten things. I love pads. I mean, everyone's like, well, why aren't you doing things more on, you know, on the computer? And like, literally, this is how I live.
Yeah, same.
Everything. And it's, I think part of it's my age, but you're younger. So it's like, you know, at 59, this is how I love to work is by hand. And I'm also ADD. So I think part of it has to do with that is how, you know, the computer part is, I need to see it all, I guess is what I'm saying. And where computers, you have to go back. That's the same things I love, like real catalogs. So you can go back and forth and look at things versus scrolling through a computer. So with the pencil, because that is such to say a niche market, that's like a niche market. And you had it for almost 8 years. So what was it day to day like, you know, and say this is after you expanded. And when you expanded, how much bigger did it become?
Well, the whole thing was in hindsight, was a crazy, crazy experiment. Like from the beginning, I did the math. I was 23 when I decided to do this.
Wow.
And I did the math and the math never worked. Like it never worked from the beginning. And I just had a feeling and I just had to do it anyway. And I was brave enough and naive enough to just go for it. And so I did. And I had no employees. It was me. And then I had my best friend worked on Sundays so I could have a day off. And very quickly, we had a really nice feature in the New York Times. And it just created this snowball effect. And the growth was organic and it was very fast. And because it was so niche and so different to anything else that existed. And honestly, I think part of the selling point was me, because there was this quippy little 20-something-year-old girl who had a really like hilariously deep knowledge of the history of all these things. Like it was, you went there and you got a history lesson basically. And so I think that was part of it. But I was actually forced to move because of a mold problem caused by construction negligence within, I guess it was about 2.5 years in. And at the time my business was growing. Like this incident happened like at the height of my growth. It was really badly timed and really, really bad and bad for my business, bad for everything. And so I took it as an opportunity to move into a bigger storefront and to expand my business. And we moved into a shop that was about like shoppable space, about 700 or 800 square feet. And we had a really nice finished basement to do online fulfillment because that was a huge part of our business. We had a subscription service that was consistently sold out. We sent it to 1,200 people every 3 months and fulfilled everything from our storefront. It kind of built it up to be a pretty sophisticated operation for something that started as a 200 square foot pencil shop.
And okay, for one, why do you have such a knowledge of pencils?
I just care a lot about object history, and it's just an object that I cared about. And I went to college in London. I grew up in rural Ohio and went to college in London. And moving abroad really showed me that there are all these amazing objects that are older than the country I grew up in that had these incredible histories. And so it's just a rabbit hole I fell down, and I ended up within the, I guess, first 2 years of my shop being open, I got a book deal. I wrote a book about the history of the pencil. I got to write a second book in 2020 about pencils. And
oh my God.
Yeah, it was a wild ride. I did not intend to become an expert on pencils, but that's like kind of my like secret is that I might be the world's foremost expert on the pencil.
And why did you end up closing? Is it because of the numbers or?
Well, honestly, a lot of it is because I'm just really headstrong about how I like to run a business. It was, I think this is true for a lot of New York City retailers in bigger cities, is that during the pandemic, I think I had not taken into account just how much of my in-store business was tourism and people coming into the shop because they were online customers and wanted to come in person, or because they heard about this weird place that only exists in New York. And so we lost a lot of business. I also made the decision to keep all of my employees. At the time I had 4 full-time employees, keep everybody fully employed. I pay their health insurance. I literally was just making up work for people to do so I could keep them employed. And I also had a landlord. People are always ragging on New York City landlords. And yes, there are a lot of really, really horrific landlords here, but there are also a lot of landlords who are just regular people. And my landlord was a regular person who I had a relationship with, and she needed my rent to pay her mortgage. And we had an open dialogue about it. And so I was paying my full rent for most of the time. And this business, because it was so important to me to not price gouge because I was selling a niche thing or because I was in New York City. And that was part of the appeal for people, is that it was a trustworthy shop where you could go and you could buy something that was 50 cents in my shop, or you could buy something that was $500. There was really something for everybody. And it was, for an object that's so universal, it was really important to me to really democratize it as much as I could. And so in the end, I mean, we were doing over $1 million our best few years. We were doing really well selling just pencils. And even so, we were just a little bit more than breaking even every year because our shop was so reliant on really good staffing, because much of our jobs was storytelling, and that the time resources that requires, that costs money. And our packaging was really deliberate and really lovely for our online orders because we wanted online customers to also have a special experience. Like, all of that costs money. And so in the end, I had kind of made all of the compromises that I could make without compromising the integrity of the way I like to run my business. And again, we weren't like losing tons of money, but I could see in the future and see that it wasn't going to get easier. And I kind of just made the decision to cut my losses and to leave it behind while I was ahead, and to accept that a business like that just simply couldn't exist in this kind of like perfect form that I had imagined it in. And it also really reminded me that, and I think this is an important lesson and an important thing to consider for people who live in cities and towns, is that not everything's meant to last forever. There's this whole dialogue about trying to save businesses. And like a business like mine, I think it's a miracle that it could exist for as long as it did, because it never made sense from the beginning. Like, I'm just so grateful that I got to do this crazy thing for 7 years and that I got to share it with other people. And I think that is such a blessing. I think that's enough. And I think this attitude that we have to save all the businesses sometimes can be sort of problematic, because sometimes a business is built to exist in a specific space in a specific time. And I think that's an important thing to consider.
I think a lot of the things that people had asked about when they sent me DMs is that you are so deliberate with your numbers, and you're very open and honest and transparent about, what it costs to do X, Y, and Z. And I will say this, in talking to a million retailers as well as open to buy people, it's like, even the first open to buy person I had on, I can't begin to tell you how many retailers I had DM me saying, what is open to buy? Like and how many retailers don't work off of their reports, and how many retailers just wing it? I mean, I had 3 stores at Fred Siegel in Santa Monica when I was 27. And 3 stores in a building that was 13,000 square feet. I think I had 8,000 square feet of this building, which is insane when you're 27 years old. And when I say I was flying by the seat of my pants, I mean, there's a reason why I went through bankruptcy. It's like I was flying by the seat of my pants. But, you really go through your numbers. Like, is that something you've always done, or is that something you started to do when you started to like investigate, like, when you said you had a feeling, and is that when that started?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think like a lot of retailers, I was always afraid to share my numbers and to be honest about this stuff, because everyone assumes that they're having a harder time than everybody else. And that by admitting that you're having a hard time, or that the math is not working out, that you have somehow failed, or that you're doing something wrong. And the truth is like you said, there's no handbook on how to start a shop and run a small business. Like, nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody's figuring it out. They're sheepishly asking questions to other shop owners because there's no instruction manual on how to do this. Or even like, there's not even like a directory of terms of like open to buy, like things that you should probably know about. And everyone's just winging it. Like, even the most professional, most amazing stores, they were just winging it too. And what I realized through this process. And also through being a really young retailer, I think by the time I closed my shop was when people who were in like my peer group were starting to open shops. And so they started coming to me to ask these questions because I had already been through it all and had a really like rapid fire introduction to retail through like immediate success and organic growth and closing my shop. And so, I realized especially then that like nobody knows anything and that it's okay for all of us to admit that we don't know anything and to be asking questions. And I think by sharing my numbers, I think there are a lot of things that shop owners aren't talking about. There are a lot of things that they're afraid to talk about because there's a lot of shame around it. But especially there are a lot of things that consumers don't understand. And I think consumers especially have no clue how precarious this business is. Like it is like everything is so make or break for a lot of independent retailers, even ones that are so optically successful. And I think like, and I realized quickly too, when I opened this new shop and the retail climate is changing so quickly. It's so drastically different now to even what it was when I closed my last shop 3 years ago. And I honestly when I opened my shop, I expected it to be easier because I have a reputation, because I'm in a good location, because I get good press and do well on social media. Like I genuinely thought it wasn't going to be as hard for me this time. And boy, was I wrong. And once I realized that, I really thought like, well, if this is so hard for me, and I know a lot more than a lot of people and have a lot of advantages, then how hard must it be for everybody else? And so as soon as I started talking about it and being on, like, I'm so happy now to be the punching bag. I'm okay with that because the number of messages I get every day and emails from retailers all over the country who are telling me that it's the same where they are, that like they had their worst year was 2024. And it's not, of course, not the case for everybody. I know a lot of people who are really successful for a lot of different reasons too, but, yeah, I feel like I've kind of been able to take the temperature on independent retail on a nationwide scale, and it's not looking good. And a lot of consumers don't understand it and don't understand how important it is for them to shop at these places, not just because it's a virtuous thing, but because it's a holiday or because they need something special, but as like an everyday practice. And I think, it's so important to yell about. And I just started feeling comfortable doing this.
You're right, because it's not only shame, but I think part of it is also ego. Like I don't want to share my secrets, or the ego of I don't want to admit that I'm having a bad year or whatnot. And 2024 was, I think, the worst retail. My thoughts partly are because everyone's comparing it to numbers from the post-pandemic when everyone got all this money and these checks and everyone's, is spending money that is like basically monopoly money. And then that ended and then everyone's back to normal. And it's really not normal, as far as how everyone learned to shop through Amazon and through online and pulling up to a store and having the groceries brought out to you. Like you're not even walking through the stores anymore. And I think that a lot of that changed everything. But, certainly everyone I've talked to, with the exception of a handful of people, had a really rough 2024. And I'm hoping this year, I don't know, I'm hoping this year has a different climate of shopping, but I don't know with the climate of what's going on. But talk about the Locavore, because what I loved watching you do this store setup, I think it was the paper to wrap the flowers in. You were going, so everything that you sell, and I love this quote, an emporium for local goods, grown, baked, fabricated, assembled, concocted, sewn, stuffed, and pickled within 100 miles of New York City. And you really kept that from far away. It looked like you really kept that all the way into building your store. I also have to put this out there. You're on a bike. You were hauling pegboard, I think, at one point onto subways, and to watch this, that you were actually sourcing goods from New York for your store. You weren't just picking up a phone and calling it in. I mean, you were on your bike going and picking these things up. But I think the paper to wrap, like there was a specific paper that you wanted, or was it for the pickles? It was one specific paper you went and you were going to, because we all know the flower markets have amazing wrap paper and like tons to, and I think that's the one I was watching you on. Please. Everyone.
Yeah, the Say It With Flowers paper that I did it. I had done a previous video where I went on a hunt to figure out the history of that paper and to figure out where to buy it. And we wrap all of our all of our gifts in that like classic bodega flower paper. And we also sell it in bundles as gift wrap that people can buy in the shop. But, yeah, it's a shop about New York, basically. And it functions as like a general store for people to come in and like, I don't know, like you can buy cooking oil there. You can buy pantry items. You can buy snacks. You can buy really amazing sunscreen that's EWG certified. You can buy a little bit of everything, but you can also tourists can come and buy just like better New York City souvenirs that are actually made in New York and have interesting stories. Like these felt pigeons made by a woman named Mother Pigeon, who's a folk artist here. Like we have something for everybody. And the process, making those videos was a lot of fun. We did 13 episodes. Every Friday we put out a new one of like the updates of what happened that week. And I don't think a lot of people realize that when you own a shop, no matter how much staff you have or how successful you are or how organized you are, you're doing like 14 different jobs. Like there's nothing straightforward about it. Like you do 14 different jobs every single day. And so I do all my errands by bike because it's more efficient. So that's always funny for people to see. But
it's like California, we spend all our times in cars. I mean, that's why I wanted to move out of California, because I spent so much time on the 101 and the 405. But I've always said this, I go to work in New York and I will be there for anywhere up to 2 weeks. And I will walk everywhere. I don't know the subway system, so I have to walk everywhere. Or, if it's really far, take a taxi. But when I have been in New York and walking the streets, and I'll walk like 50 blocks to wherever. And it's always, New Yorkers are astounding to me because they will go to the grocery store, like a Whole Foods, and then you get on a subway and you're hauling all these bags, and then your coffee comes from a different store, and then your meat counter is a different stop, and you're doing this all getting on and off a subway, carrying all this stuff. It's like New Yorkers are hardy. Like there is no way that would happen in California. Like at all. Like people drive to find the closest parking spot, let alone drag all this stuff onto a subway. So it's amazing. It was always amazing to me to watch you on this bike and lugging everything you needed for these stores. I just wanted to tell you.
Thank you. I love cycling. It's the best way to get around. But it's, yeah, and a lot of our inventory too, like it's because we sell local inventory, it's nice because we can get things quickly, and a lot of it's hand delivered. So like I've met most of the people who make the goods that we sell. But a lot of it, like I do occasionally have to do bike pickups of inventory, which is always really, really funny. Occasionally I have to rent a car, to go to, like, there's a candle factory in Brooklyn and they only do pickups. So I have to get a car to go do it. It certainly is not for the faint of heart running a shop like mine. But, and because of the difficulty of all these things, like that does affect our profit margins. But, yeah, it's a really weird and wonderful little shop. And I designed it to be as friendly as possible and as educational as possible without being overwhelming. And the whole point is to surprise people by just what is made here. Because I think when a lot of people think about, like, and I say this in quotes, like locally made goods, you think about cottage industries like ceramics or soaps or jams or things like leather goods, things like that, which, like, of course that stuff is wonderful and we do sell a lot of that. But my objective is to challenge people by showing them things they might not expect. Like my favorite example is that we sell wiffle ball, like the plastic baseball bats with the balls, because they're made by a family-owned company in Shelton, Connecticut. Like we sell those, and we sell a woman-owned screwdriver set.
I love it.
From the screwdriver company that's also in Connecticut. There are a lot of things that people wouldn't expect, like really, really utilitarian things. We sell decorative bike valve caps. We sell compost from a local organization, and planters, like beautiful terracotta planters that are historically informed. We sell really regular grocery items. It's, we sell matcha that isn't just like packaged in the US. It's actually milled here in New Jersey. It's my, like, personal goal to surprise people as much as I can when they come into our shop.
So because you just named off in any retail store the most random thing. So because it is a general store basically. Yeah. This is a two-sided question. Did you decide what departments and items you're going to sell before you went and looked for it? Or was it you went and looked for it and then decided on the departments after?
Yeah, I originally made this big spreadsheet and I thought about like, okay, in a general store, what categories of products would be normal to find in a general store? And I made like color coded columns and I went in and filled in all the things I already knew about. A lot of places, I mean, this is very much a lifestyle that I have always lived. And so I already knew about a lot of these brands. And I also had a bunch that I found from like peeking in factory doors when I'm out walking the city to catalog shops. And I filled everything in. And then I went in and identified like what products I would like to sell, but have not yet sourced. And I tried to source those things. And there, of course, are some things that I couldn't source or some things that will just never be made here. And some things that like I know exist and are made here, but I can't sell. There's some categories that like I just can't sell. And, well, there's one that we're about to bring in and I want to test it. I really want it to work and I think it might not. I don't know. I found this amazing marker company in New Jersey. It's like not cool. I mean, I think their packaging is cool because it's really old school, but they make paint markers that are non-toxic and they come in just like standard colors and little like packs. And I mean, I don't know if people want to buy paint markers from me. We sell art supplies and pencils, but like paint markers are a little too specific and a little too utilitarian. I'm not sure if they're going to work, but I just love the fact that you can get paint markers that are made in New Jersey. So I'm going to try it, with the expectation that it just might not work. Even screwdrivers felt like a little bit of a stretch, but we don't sell the really hardcore sets that they make. We only sell these cool little they're like little like pocket sized convertible screwdriver sets that are a good price point. They're a great stocking stuffer or a gift because they're small. They come with a little information card with the story of this company. It's kind of like an intro to that company. And so, the shop is kind of laid out by category. So it's easy to shop and you don't feel overwhelmed because there's like a screwdriver sitting next to a decorative candle.
So what is the square footage of the store?
In total, it's about 600 square feet.
Is that including back of house?
Yeah, that's including back of house.
So take us through from walking into the store and how the flow of the store goes.
Yeah, so you walk in and, first, let me say, if you want to go back and watch my making a shop videos, you'll see this. All of our shelving is like traditional grocery store style gondola shelving. That's pre-made. We got it from a locally owned, they're apparently like the largest dealer of this gondola shelving in the region. It's in Canarsie, Brooklyn. We like went there to the showroom, picked everything out. It's cool because it's all modular. So we can change the shelves. All the shelves can be at an angle. They can be upright. There's tons of accessories you can get for them. My whole point was that I wanted to use familiar things that people associate with this general idea of a shop, and to do it in a creative way. That was like my design perspective on this. And so you walk in and there's a big unit down the middle that is also like counter height and it's gondola shelving that we had custom rounded end pieces made just to make it a little bit cooler. And I had a custom tiled tabletop made to fit over it. Just to kind of style it a little bit differently and have something that's a little bit more aesthetically interesting. And so that's in the middle. And we kind of use that surface to merchandise seasonal stuff or for a lot of like the more decorative stuff, like the hair accessories and stacks of books. And we have vases filled with flowers. And that's our more like, that's the area that's just more like merchandise and that is swapped out seasonally. Pretty. But besides that, we keep everything pretty standard. On the left-hand side, you have anything that's like recreation or toys. So there's games, there's toys, there's beautiful camping cushions. There's all of that there. And then you continue on into skincare and cosmetics. We have everything from like bath products to like really advanced skincare and sunscreen to like we have two brands of toothpaste, if you can imagine. And people come specifically for this one brand of toothpaste that no one sells. And that makes me really happy. It's called Squiggle. It's made by a dentist in Eastern Pennsylvania. And the only reason we know about it is because my coworker's partner is from the town where this man is based, and they make a toothpaste that apparently is better than Sensodyne for sensitive teeth, called Tooth Builder. And people come in like just to get Tooth Builder. It's amazing. But yeah, so we have like skincare and cosmetics is all together. And then we have then you reach like the end and there's a pickle barrel, which is like a kind of an homage to the trading of on the Lower East Side at the turn of the century. We had pickles delivered in a 5-gallon bucket from the oldest pickle house in New York City, which is in Maspeth, Queens. They've been around since the 1880s.
Wow.
And they're proper lacto-fermented pickles. We put them in a ceramic bowl on ice at the beginning of every day. So you can come in and buy a single pickle and you pluck it out of the barrel with tongs and put it in your little pickle bag. And then our counter is there too. And our counter is also gondola shelving. And so we have like bodega style candy shelves underneath the counter, which is a lot of fun. And then to the right of that, we have a beverage fridge where we have lots of fun beverages that are all local. And then turning, I guess you turn around and you're walking straight towards the front of the store again. And on the left-hand side is all of the food products, the snacks, all of that. And then as you get closer to the window, that's where we keep like cleaning products. And then that kind of morphs into like home goods and gardening stuff, which that stuff gets swapped out seasonally as well. But there's some things that we always sell.
It sounds like a bodega combined with a gift shop combined with a pharmacy counter, an old school pharmacy counter.
Yeah.
I love the mix of products because I think, again, like that's what I said, it's like for people that the items that you just named off is like they're so random. But I always think about, like, if you think about a old school, like old pharmacies used to be my favorite places because it's everything from, now they sell apparel and they sell gifts and they sell candles and they sell jewelry and then all the, the walkers and whatnot. And then your over the counter meds. But for some reason, pharmacies have always been my favorite. And it sounds, not that it's a pharmacy, but it sounds very much like that, where you can find all different kinds of things, even though you're going in there for maybe something like just the pickle.
Yeah, totally. And I think that like in this day and age, you have to be so creative about thinking about how you're going to get people into your store and especially how you're going to get them to come back. And so I think like it's important to me that we're prioritizing that like 50% of what we do is always with the intention of earning return customers. And then maybe that other 50% is tourists, or it is people who are coming in once in a while to spend $100 on a gift because they know we're good at that and always have seasonal things. And so I think it's so important to have, like, from a strategic perspective, to have a balance of those two things.
So because I would guess, I mean, maybe not. It would feel to me daunting to try and find things that are all within 100 miles of New York that are great. So that alone seems a little bit daunting, but then you throw in the holiday aspect of it. And I know you had Christmas and Hanukkah. Do you go into doing Valentine's and Easter and I'm assuming Mom's Day, but all these other holidays that, just add to my stress of trying to find something 100 miles from New York.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's like definitely really difficult. We just did Valentine's and did a pretty good job, I think. We partnered with a local chocolate maker and did a lot of that. We sold silk roses made in the garment district by the last remaining like proper fabric flower maker in America. And those were really a hit because there's a viral video that's been circulating on Instagram for about a year now that's about this place, and it's incredible. I found a stationery company that does like kids like punch out like school pack Valentines, which did not sell as well as I thought they would. I think people just didn't expect to find that stuff with us and didn't know that it was there. But yeah, I'm trying to do all the holidays, and it is really difficult. It presents a whole different set of challenges, especially for Christmas. Like, for example, I could more or less predict what kind of gifts people might want to buy from us. But when it comes to like decor, like where am I going to find Christmas decorations that are local? Like that stuff was really hard. And so we commissioned some people to make us ornaments. I've already have some new vendors lined up for next year for ornaments. So that's good. I have a friend who is a Hasidic rabbi, and he helped me find a vendor for locally made menorah candles.
Amazing.
And that was an important thing for us to have since we're in New York. We partnered with Amy Sedaris, the comedian and actress, is our neighbor. And we did a fundraiser where she made us these really, really beautiful and really fun, very festive metallic pipe cleaner garlands. And we sold them and donated all of the money to a local organization. I think we raised like $4,000. It was so much fun. And so we got really creative with it and had a pretty successful holiday season. In fact, we were selling out of everything. I could have bought so much more. So I just have a lot of notes for next year.
You mentioned Amy Sedaris and the partnership. You just dropped something else that she made as well. What was it? It was
Oh, she makes these lighters. This started like during Christmas season. She just came in one day and like brought me this bag. It's a thing she's like known for, that she tapes Dum Dum lollipop wrappers around Bic lighters, and they're just really like funny and weird, and people know that she does this. And so she just brought them by and was like, I want you to sell these as a stocking stuffer, like at the counter for $10 specifically. And I was like, okay, cool, we'll sell those. And they sold out in 2 days. And so she just, we're donating all the money to an animal adoption organization that she loves. And so now it's just like a regular thing that we sell, and she comes by to restock them when we're sold out. And because our counters merchandise like a bodega counter, it's like such an appropriate and fun thing for us to have, like literally next to like the meat sticks. Because I love that, like you can, like that's where like the Slim Jims are normally. And so we have like locally sourced meat sticks, and then like this container of lighters and some keychains and all the stuff you might find on a bodega counter.
I mean, I've always loved like how those counters because you're standing, and much like, pharmacies do the same thing. It's like you're standing there and you're ringing up, and it's like, oh, there's keychains, there's little packs of Lifesavers, gum, whatever. But that's like, when I saw that, I was like, that's brilliant. And the fact that it's a give back program, I think is so important. I love that you're doing that.
Yeah, it's fun. I like to be collaborative and involve as many people in everything as possible, because at the end of the day, this is supposed to be fun. And having a shop for me is so much about community and the community that you can build around that. And I think longevity wise, like that's what makes a great shop, is the community that you're able to build around it and the people who are willing to rally around you. And that part for me as a shopkeeper has always been such a priority.
So question on, a lot of, because I believe in being a buyer that you need to take risks and, order things like you're ordering this marker pen or paint marker. At what point, because I think a lot of retailers wrestle with this, at what point do you decide it's a dead and like time to get rid of it? Do you have sales? What's your philosophy on that? As well as what's your philosophy on reorders?
Yeah. So, for the type of shops that I have had, my pencil shop and this shop, I'm a firm believer that about 60% of our inventory should always be core inventory. The stuff that is like tried and true. We know people want to buy it. People expect us to have it, because I think from like a customer loyalty perspective, that's really important, because people want to come back and buy the thing that they love. And so that's about 60%. About 40% is rotating, whether that's seasonal or it's something handmade that we might not be able to get again, or it's something that we're just trying out and it might not work. Like a lot of the decorative stuff ends up being like that. The home goods, the fashion accessories, people don't want to find that same stuff all the time. And so that kind of has to be rotating. But I don't know. I think that a really, really important quality of a buyer in a shop is that you have to be able to have a very, very strong gut instinct. You have to be able to make decisions quickly and to like just inherently know that you're probably going to be right most of the time, but sometimes you're going to be completely wrong. Like some of the stuff I love the most is the stuff that nobody wants to buy, and that's heartbreaking. And I think I give it a few months. I would give it a few months, and then I would put it on sale and replace it with something that I think might be like a better alternative. But I'm relatively ruthless about identifying when something's just not working. And we're about to do kind of our first round of shop culling, where a lot of stuff we've kind of waited for it to naturally sell out, and then we just don't restock it. But I would say there's about like 5% of my inventory that's a lot of the decorative home goods stuff that's been hanging around since we opened that I've got to start to get rid of now that I understand our customer better, and I can make a more informed decision about what to replace it with.
So then do you put it in a sales section, or do you just mark it and let people know about it?
I think it depends on how quickly I want to get rid of it. If it's something that I want to be done within like a week or two, I'll by the front of the store where we have like our recreation and toy stuff, I'll like mark out, I'll re-merchandise it and create a shelf for sale things. That's what we've done for seasonal merchandise. If it's something that I'm not in a hurry to get rid of, we have a system of just like marking things kind of discreetly and letting people know that it's on sale. And that tends to work pretty well, I think.
A quiet sale, as I call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have started a series, Caroline Finds It. How long have you been doing it, and how often does it drop?
Oh, so I've actually been doing this for many years. It used to be on Substack, and I had quite a lot of readers, and it was about shopping online back then. People would write in, they'd tell me something that they can't find, and then I would use all of the tools I have to try to find it for them. And so now, since we launched in July of 2023 online, I've been doing this. I lost count of how many I've done, but people in New York write in, they tell me about a thing that they need, and then I head out on my bike and I try to find it, and I share where I find it and the shops I'm going to, but also my strategy. Like, that's the part that I've learned people are most interested in, is how I find the shops and how I know that they're going to have what I'm looking for. And I'm actually dropping one later today, a new video. And it's less about the thing I'm finding and more about all the secrets that I have for how to find specific brands of food products at grocery stores. And these videos, like, I love making these videos because it really demonstrates to people the lifestyle I'm trying to sell, and also how fun it can be. Like, it's basically a scavenger hunt. I get to go on scavenger hunts around New York City to find really mundane, regular, everyday things. And it is so much fun. And that's my goal always, is to show people, like, this is not a chore. I mean, sometimes it is a chore. Sometimes it's not fun, but it doesn't have to always be that way.
I mean, how do you find this? I mean, I'm like, the amount of videos that you do and the quality of them, I mean, the editing, the everything, but the fact that you're going out on your bike to find, like, how do you find this time? Like, that's the part where I'm like, you're running a store. You are also sourcing for your store. You're also, doing other projects, but the fact that you head out on your bike, and like, how long, like, what does a typical day look like when it involves a Caroline Finds It?
Oh, well, it's good you're asking this today because I literally just did it yesterday. And so, yeah, yesterday I got up. I started my work day around 8 a.m. yesterday. I had to actually go. This is a good example of a day, actually. I had to go to the floral district to buy more paper and flat sheets to bundle for the shop because we're almost sold out. I also needed to restock the ribbon that we wrap our gifts in and some candles, which we also sell. And so the floral district opens early. Like, it's open at 5 a.m. They close at noon. And so I had to get there at 8 a.m. I got all the things I needed. I taxied it because it was too heavy. I taxied it to the shop. And then I went back to my office and I checked in with Camille, who manages our website and our database, and one of our part-timers who comes into the office on Thursdays. And I had to check in with them. I did about 3 hours of just like admin work, emails, buying, all of that. I'm planning an event. So yesterday it was a lot of like event planning. I have an event in March at the Shopify storefront in Soho. And so I had a call with them. We have a weekly check-in about that. And then I finished up all of that and then had to go down to the shop because I had a meeting at the shop. And I try to be in the shop for a couple hours a day when I can. I do full days pretty regularly as well. But I went down to the shop for the rest of the day and met somebody who runs an organization that's about amplifying shops in Chinatown. And I got there thinking I'd get work done on my laptop. I always think that. And then, of course, I don't, because I end up just like merchandising things and talking to customers, which is way more fun. And yeah, I spent about 3 hours in the shop. And then I left to go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. Wow. Because I've just been voted onto the board of the Greenwich Village Chelsea Chamber of Commerce. And then I went home and did about an hour of emails and went to bed. So
okay, so your day starts at 8 a.m. and what time are you getting in bed?
Last night it was 11 o'clock.
Wow.
But that is not always a normal day. I am the first to admit that I am a workaholic and I've got to figure this out because I can't do this forever. But, yeah, my work day normally starts at 8, and usually on a normal day when there's no meetings, I'm home around 7:30.
That is fucking impressive. Let me tell you. What does a typical off day look like then for you? If you're a workaholic, I can only imagine.
Well, I always have to do social media. I know that you can schedule that stuff in advance now, but I'm never organized enough to do that. So I usually spend about an hour on social media every day, and I have good boundaries about it. I don't keep Instagram on my personal phone. I physically keep a second phone for work. And that's where I do all the Instagram, TikTok, whatever. That's where we have a hotline for our subscribing members where they can text a phone number if they're trying to find something and they can't find it, and I'll reply with some ideas of where to go. It's not my job to like tell them exactly where to get it, but I give them ideas. I'll give them a list of shops to try. So all that goes to my work phone, and I will put it away. I will turn it off when I'm done. Like I do not have it on me all the time because I need that boundary. But yeah, an off day I do that, and I I have a lot of hobbies. I like to garden. I like to do needle crafts. I have a lot of friends. I like to go to the theater. And so I'm not the type of person who finds sitting around my house relaxing. I like to be doing things, like doing fun activities is how I relax. And so, living a busy lifestyle where I'm just like biking around all the time, I think is suitable for me.
I commend you because I don't know how you do it. I want to ask you about, because you had put it out, which is why I recircled back around, calling out for retailers. So talk a little bit about this, because the podcast, 90% of our listeners are retailers from all across the country as well as international. So I would love to have you have a chance to send out this message to all of our listeners.
Yes, thank you so much for letting me do this. I currently have a survey online that I'm running. The URL is just theshopsurvey.com, and it's short. It's about 10 minutes. I could have asked a million more questions, but I know shop owners are really busy. And so it's a short survey for shop owners in America. It doesn't matter what state you're in. If you have a shop that sells tangible dry goods in the United States, I would love to have you fill out this survey. I am writing a book right now. I'm in the early stages of writing a book about independent retail in America in this current moment and how it works, but also why it's so important to our culture, to our communities, to our economy. Basically all the things that consumers probably aren't thinking about. And I'm telling it in a really narrative way. It needs to be backed by data, of course, but I went on a road trip for 32 days last fall around the country. I drove 9,000 miles across 27 states and visited a diverse range of cities and towns and interviewed shop owners and shopped around and investigated to see kind of what was going on outside of New York. And I'm still interviewing a lot of people and doing a ton of research. But I really think that there are a lot of misconceptions, but there's also a lot of surveys and a lot of agencies and organizations that exist to support and understand small businesses miss a lot of things. There are a lot of things that I feel like you don't understand unless you do this job yourself. And so I'm trying to get to the bottom of some of this stuff that I feel like I'm not getting answers for via all of these corporate funded surveys that I have access to. And yeah, I don't know. And I just think all these organizations and all these products and all these POS companies and all these tech brands that support small business have no idea what's actually going on. And so, yeah, I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. And I'm also trying to propose some ideas and solutions for how to help all of this exist and thrive in the future.
So will you drop that site again? So we're going to make sure it's in the show notes, but just for the people listening. So one more time.
Yeah. So you can visit theshopsurvey.com. There's a link there that will take you to the survey page. It's very quick. And I would appreciate as many respondents as possible.
Okay, I have one last question, because obviously it is a very big topic right now with the current political situation, which is the tariffs. Now, tariffs are coming in from China, from Mexico, and Canada. You are sourcing all of your items from local. And I think, you are an advocate for small boutique retail as well as local makers, which I love. Now, I think you are very much going to become an advocate for why buying local is so important, because they're not going to be attached to tariffs. And correct me if I'm wrong. If they make something here, sew it here, but if the fabric comes from any of these countries, that gets tariffed, correct? But the ultimate item that you are purchasing from you are purchasing from the wholesaler, that part of it, are they extending the tariffs on that? I would guess they would have to.
If the product is being sold in the U.S.
From my understanding, is even if they're sewing something in the U.S., if the fabric is purchased from any of those countries, that fabric gets tariffed. So I'm assuming the manufacturer has to take in that cost. Yeah. But you, as a consumer buying it from you are missing the tariff that would, if you're purchasing it from any of these countries.
That's correct. But yeah, and I think that is the thing a lot of people don't realize is that just because a thing is made in a place doesn't mean that the things it's made of came from that place. And that is certainly the case for a lot of the suppliers that we have for our shop is that their raw materials might be coming from a place that is now impacted by these increased tariffs. And so their raw materials cost them more, and that cost gets passed on to me, which then gets passed on to the customer. It's not as straightforward as like a product is made in China, therefore it now costs more. And I think that's the thing that a lot of consumers are missing is that this is a much more nuanced issue, because it does really impact like all trade industries because materials come from all over the place.
Yeah. But I think that by far and large, for those who are sourcing things that are, produced in the United States, your cost of goods is not going to see the skyrocketing price that other goods are going to. And, unfortunately, all of us as retailers, like all of us that are doing all these gift shows, a lot of these little lines that you represent are not shown in gift shows. So most of the items that all of us are looking at gift shows are all most of them are coming out of one of these countries. And it's the cost of goods we don't know yet. Like it hasn't hit yet. So I don't think any of the retailers know what it's going to look like, but it is the way you are doing it. The cost of goods is not going to be anywhere near as high as if, for us buying it out of, China.
Yeah, that's right. We're as minimally impacted as we can be. And even so, we're still impacted a little bit.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I've had you almost an hour, and I'm really grateful because knowing what your days are like, I'm grateful that you spent this hour with me. Tell everyone where they can find you at all the places. And then I'm going to have you send me the listing because my editing team, while they are very good, it's a lot easier to have the whole list.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at the Locavore NYC and on our website at thelocavore.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And the book can be found.
Yeah, the book can be found in our store, on our website, and with more than 60 retailers in New York City. It's called The Locavore Guide to Shopping New York City, and it is a physical guidebook.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time and your knowledge.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.